So I use these filters. I like filters because they hold more paint. And if you want to get more on here, because you kind of see how it's going to be.
Do you, when you paint, do you like to paint in silence or do you like music? What's your style?
I like music. I usually listen to music. So I'm starting to get the form of the neck. So I really don't know how far I'm going to go with finishing this part of it, because I'm after mostly the head and then right in here, here, and here. So I'll kind of leave this vague right now, and that has to dry. So then, while that's drying, I'll start putting in some of the texture of this.
Where do you get the photo from?
Actually, this piece is an award winner from the county fair, local fair, Geauga County. So I went there one year and got maybe all the animal portraits were from one setting, and they all were award winners in their categories at the fair. There's maybe 7 or 8 of them on the thing. So see, I sketch to this. That's subconsciously, I'm just creating the texture of the hairs. So then later when they dry, I'll go in and pull out little forms of it. Where here I kept it more smooth because that's in the background. Even though it's a goat, you know, that you have like, all right, if you're going to break this down, how you want people to look at it. This is the landscape. This is the foreground because it's the most prevalent spot in space as it comes forward. And then as you go back to the head, and then the ears are the farthest point back from the head. So these would be detailed less than this point of the painting because that's the foreground. So if you detail all this and leave this blank, it looks weird because you're like defeating the purpose of doing a realistic rendering of something. And this will have even less detail because it's in the background. So see, even from before, and then I would go back in, say, bring back some of the highlights just to find out where they're at again.
Michael, what's your painting background?
I went to Cleveland Institute of Art. Actually, luckily I went to a high school that had an art department. So then, right then, that's when I knew I had talent in it, but I didn't pursue it till about 1985. And I hooked up with a friend of mine who was an instructor at the Institute. He taught portrait painting and drawing, and he said I should go to art school. So then when I went like 1 year, the second year he offered me a job in his restoration business, and that's where I learned everything. So I was a restorer for 7 years, and then I just decided to go on my own in '90 and move to Florida, and that's when I started doing shows. And I've been doing it ever since then. Along the way, I pick up galleries here, and the professional artist version is more compatible with what you see in museums rather than what a layman sees. Because the question that laymen ask me is, like, how come in art you go in there and there's like a beautiful portrait, and then there's, you know, Picasso next to it, and then there's a naked lady next to that, and then there's a side of beef next to that. It has nothing to do with the compositions. It has to do with how they're painted based on those 6 elements of fine art.